Hello, I'm Sch0eyJr and this is QuanaBot.
Hello!
Welcome to Blabees. Roll that intro. Anyway, welcome to the Blabees channel. I don't even know where the name came from because we're blabbing and we like bees. So.
Exactly. It's a name that works. So today we're going to talk about the new upcoming Borderlands games, which is coming out in October. It's a Telltale game, which is something they've already done. So I think, I don't have the dates in mind, top of my mind, but so they created a first Telltale game, which I think came out between Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel. Which was very fun. I think it was a way to keep people entertained with the lore of Borderlands, which is very rich, and introduce some new characters, which became more prominent in the following games. And so I know nothing about this upcoming game. I kept my mind fresh. I have no idea what the setting is, and I have no idea what the characters are. But yeah, how are you feeling about this?
I'm excited. I never played Tales from the Borderland, so. Borderlands 2 and Tales from the Borderland, that whole part of the lore, I have no clue of. Obviously played the original Borderlands and then moved into Borderlands 3 and then grinded that out.
So you played Borderlands 1 and 3, but you didn't play these are the best ones.
I know. And then I tried to play like Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, and that in itself it felt so dated going back game.
This is my perspective, but so I am a huge fan of the Borderlands franchise. I think Borderlands 2 is my favorite, and I think it used to be my favorite games of all time because I thought it was brilliant. The style of the game was great, the design is great, the gaming is great, the lore is fantastic, and I think it was one of these games that was not afraid to kill off some of their characters, which is something not a lot of games do. The pre-sequel, so basically the Borderlands 2 introduces, you have some of the key characters that you had in Borderlands 1, so you have Lilith, you have Big Baddie, which is Handsome Jack, which is the most brilliant villain ever. He's amazing, charismatic, evil, and all that. He's handsome. He is handsome, which adds to the whole charisma. And I think when they made the pre-sequel, it was giving a bit more depth to Handsome Jack, which he is a playable character in the game. And it was a fantastic way to show more about how he sort of becomes a good guy. At first, he's kind of a good guy, to a tyrant and an evil person. And so the pre-sequel was a way. The Telltale game was a way to introduce new characters, which you can play in the pre-sequel. So for instance, it introduces, well, I think you have Athena, which is she's a playable character in the pre-sequel. You also have some of your favorite characters, Zero's in the game, which is the assassin with the sword. You also get the introduction of new characters like Vaughn and Rhys, who you find in Borderlands 3. And this is the first time you see them. It's in that Telltale game, and I thought, I really like these games that are, devoted to their fans. You introduce new characters, and there's lots of Easter eggs all the time in these games, lots of references to lots of things. And to me, it felt like Borderlands 2 was a huge success. Telltale was quite successful because it was a way to tie everything in. The pre-sequel was good. In my opinion, Borderlands 3 was a slight misstep. I think in terms of the lore and the gameplay, it was a little bit underneath. And so you were saying Assault on Tiny Tina as Dragon Keep. Dragon Keep Assault. I can't remember the title. Assault on Tiny Tina.
Assault on Dragon Keep.
It was a bit of a step back, and I think it's because there was a bit of a step back with Borderlands 3. In Borderlands 3, Tiny Tina's grown up, and she loses a little bit of that appeal that she had as that crazy kid who's very eccentric. When she becomes a teenager, it just doesn't have the same oomph.
Something innocent about kids' imagination, I guess, as a teenager.
It's kids' imagination, and the fact that she loves explosion, and she still likes teddies, and suddenly although it's cute and funny when it's a kid, for some reason when she became a teenager, it was more sad than anything else. That's the feeling I had anyway. It was DLC content. It was brilliant. It was really, really good. It was a really, really good DLC. Very good addition to the game. And I think this is also where the Wonderland sprouted, because it was the favorite DLC. I think some of the DLCs you had were very entertaining, but it's a one-off. Once you've done it, you might not want to do it again. It has a bit of a gimmick. It's funny when you do it, but then when you've done it, that's it. Tiny Tina's Dragon Keep, it was the first DLC that really had a world around it. It was really fun. It had that sort of D&D. For D&D fans, it's amazing. It's like full of references. And as somebody like me who plays D&D once a week, I kept giggling and pointing my finger at something that was a direct reference to the game. There is another DLC, in my opinion, which was really good, and I think it was in the pre-sequel. It was the DLC that happened inside Claptrap's mind. As you know, Claptrap is a little bit like a special robot, and you have an entire DLC which happens inside his mind where you need to retrieve memory, and it is very well thought because it's very techie, obviously, because it's inside a robot's mind, and at the same time it has that sort of crazy eccentric aspect. You're gonna be inside a very techie Star Wars looking room, and the next minute you're in a toys room, or you're in the middle of the North Pole, and I really like that DLC. It's a fun question for me, but for each of the games, for each of the Borderlands games, what class did you pick, and did you like it? In Borderlands 1, old game, but you could play Lilith, Roland, Brick, Mordecai. So Lilith being the siren, so kind of a DPS character. Brick, the melee tanky character. Mordecai, kind of like a hunter with the
Eagle,
pet.
Yeah.
Bloodwing.
Yeah, it was Bloodwing, yeah.
And Roland, which was more of I believe, a gunner.
I mean, I think I went for the tank. I feel like I did play with the Bloodwing as well. I do recall using that, but I think the one that I actually completed the game on with was the tank. I like tanky characters.
I'm more of a DPS person. I will usually go for high damage, squishy build.
Yeah, I like tanking it. Charging my way through, absorb all that damage. And then with Borderlands 3, I can't remember her name. That was the tech machine. Oh, God. I remember what she looks like.
Mose,
yeah.
Yes, yeah. I did play.
Mose.
I played with Mose as well. Borderlands 3.
It was a fun character to create. That was high DPS if you got the right build.
It was almost a bit OP at some point. Borderlands 1, I played with Maya, who was the siren, so high DPS, a bit squishy. Borderlands 2, I played with Maya, who is a siren, squishy character, high DPS. The pre-sequel, I played with Claptrap, which is an incredible experience. I recommend it to everyone. It's a wild character to play with. Basically, the special that I had for Claptrap, which is the best special to have, it's a wheel. You spin the wheel, and it can land on something really good, and it can land on something terrible. You just have to make do. And sometimes it's amazing. So I think one of the results, you end up looking like a ship, and you have cannons in all the directions shooting everything, or you have lasers shooting at everything in all the directions, or you are on an inflatable duck and you like bounce around. It's very, very fun special. I love playing with Claptrap. I also played the game with Aurelia, who is a siren type of character, high DPS, ice power.
You're sensing a theme here.
Yeah, which I think you fight. She's a boss in Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 I played with Mose. And then in Wonderland I went for Sorcerer. I have a type. What did you go for in the Wonderland?
I went for the Clawbringer, which I regretted halfway through because it felt like all of their certain builds that I went for. It was just such low DPS when I played, but I know they did buff it at certain points, which is quite good that they continue supporting it and developing and kind of rebalancing characters. But it's felt like the spell shot. Once you combine any class with that spell shot.
Spell shot, that's the name. Spell shot is the one I picked. Amazing. Increase
the damage, yeah. The spore warden, that was quite a good character as well. I wanted Clawbringer because I wanted the little pet wyvern, because I just thought, you know what, being a dragon master is awesome.
Quick question, what did you think of the personalization capability in Borderlands Wonderland? So in comparison with the older games, you usually have presets and then you can change the color. In Wonderland, they added a lot of personalization capabilities, almost like The Sims, where you can literally morph the face and everything the way you want it. What did you think? Is that something that you liked, or is that something that was a bit too much in your opinion?
Gimmicky, in my opinion. I prefer having a character. Like I liked Mose, and I liked her, her personality. I felt like that really, having those personalities within the games adds to the story as well.
I think you're on point. The what made the charisma of a lot of the games is how the characters were badass, which is I think what the game is about, is badass, but also they have their personalities. I have loved each and every character that I've played. Moz maybe a little bit less because she was a little bit more flat than some stronger personality. Like it again, I'm repeating myself, but in my opinion, Borderlands 2 had the best characters to play. Zero, who is the assassin, was fantastic and very mysterious. Maya, who you see again in Borderlands 3, was really cool and badass. You could even play in Borderlands 2, you could even play as a psycho, which I think was very, very cool. And Lilith from Borderlands 1's really cool. Claptrap, you don't get the same feeling from creating somebody exactly like you. You win and you lose. Obviously, you can make a character that looks more like your vision of what your character should look like, but you lose a little bit in this story that you get with each character. Comparison I could make with one of my favorite games, Divinity Original Sin 2. Divinity Original Sin 2. You can choose to either create a character or you can pick a character already existing, and each character already existing has a very strong personality, some goal, something they like to do, and I think you miss out massively on the game if you don't use these characters in your party, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's a bit similar to Mass Effect.
Yes.
You can create your own character or play as Shepard. And I felt like if you created your own character, it kind of lost that magic and connection to the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Feel like the actual Shepard.
And I understand, I suppose, in Wonderland, because it's like D&D, and D&D, you would create your own characters. At the same time, if you RP a little bit, which I suppose is what role-playing games are about, you usually find a way to connect your character to the story. And it makes sense that you can create your character completely, but you would need to tie yourself in the story, which is very difficult to do in a video game.
For sure.
Yeah.
Should we get on to New Tales of the Borderland?
Yeah, sorry.
It's very easy to have a whole conversation about like previous games and talk about Wonderland. So we got the release date of the 21st of October, which is not far away actually, less than a month, which is very exciting. It's still going to be episodic, but unlike Tales of the Borderland, everything is going to be released on day one. So there are 5 episodes in total. I think that was a complaint from the New Tales. So the episodes are released too far apart, maybe. So they're just everything is released day one. So that's good. For
Tales from the Borderlands, I waited until everything was released to avoid that, because I agree. There's a especially in a game like this, which so usually with Telltale games, they have crazy cliffhanger at the end of each chapter, which is obvious, especially if it's episodic. And where there's a possibility to buy each episode separately, it makes sense that you would have mad cliffhangers. But that means you usually end up really expecting what comes after. And yeah, if the wait is too long between 2 episodes, some people just give up. So that actually does make sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's a good one. I guess the way content is nowadays, you know, everything's released on like Netflix, everything's released day one, and you know, it's your choice whether to binge it or to wait. So I do find series like The Rings of Power. I was going to confuse the new Game of Thrones series with that. I always do it. Rings of Power, like the weekly wait is okay. I think 1 week wait is okay, but it's longer than that. But like, yeah, you lose interest in that story, or it's very, you know, content rolls so quick nowadays that just well, you know, we want to consume it all in one go.
One thing that I would like to know is how actually responsive and interactive it is, and I can't remember which Telltale game it was. I think it was one of the Walking Dead, where actually some of the decisions just gave the illusion of a decision, but the outcome was exactly the same. And I think obviously the game I'm thinking of, you know, it's one of the first Telltale game, and I think it's gone quite a. They've released quite a few games since, so you would think that this would have been sorted. But that's one thing I would be curious about. And another thing I'm wondering is, obviously, you know, you've got decisions, but you've also got dialogue.
Yep.
What is the impact of picking certain dialogues above others? And another game I'm thinking of right now is something like The Quarry. I've been getting the impression in The Quarry that you have the decision to pick between certain prompts in the story, but it feels like all the dialogues in between almost do not matter. Don't have much of an impact, which you know, makes it easier if you want to do all the possible endings in the game. But from a you know, an interactive story perspective, made me feel a little bit like what I do don't matter as much. And you know, it's the blurry line between a movie and a video game. Which is it, you know? And that's one thing I'm very curious about in this game. How interactive is it really?
Yeah.
And
gives you the illusion of choice whether it actually or it does impact you in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to something like Mass Effect. Your individual experience throughout the game didn't really impact, so your little choices didn't really matter, but I guess the bigger choices did impact the story and how it ended. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they work with that. I feel like nowadays you need more of a shock factor to entertain. So maybe those decisions throughout the game in the new Tales of the Borderland will impact the story. Shall we preview the trailer? I haven't seen it.
Most stories in the Borderlands start bloody. They end bloody too. Sometimes all it takes to change the galaxy is a trio of losers trying to get through a bad day.
We are in the middle of a TDR invasion.
Leave immediately! This area is now under TDR jurisdiction!
They think there was a vault key being kept on the station.
If we can find whatever's in that vault before TDR does, we can change our lives.
We're bad at this, like really bad. TDR has many guns, talking guns, guns with legs.
I'm gonna blast you so freaking fast! Yeah! Shut up, Richard!
Yeah, Richard.
I always wanted to change the universe for the better, and now we actually can!
But more importantly, we'll be drowning in ash!
Why are you people like this?
If you happen to see any corpses along the way, don't worry about them. They're just, yeah, don't worry about them.
Don't worry about them. It looks good. So it's set, as I said it earlier, it's set a year after Borderlands 3 story ends. It looks very good. It looks like they've captured the similar art style to Borderlands 3, and yeah, all the characters seem interesting. So your thoughts on the trailer? I didn't really give much away in terms of...
It didn't give much away. I'm just being very cautious because obviously this is a franchise I really love. These are games I really love. And I don't want to get too hyped because I'm scared that I could get disappointed. It obviously looks fun. Borderlands has humor. There's always lots of humor. And from the trailer, it seems like they keep going down that route. It would be good to see in what creative ways they're exploring their humor. Because, so to give you an example, in the trailer you can see a talking gun. It's obviously quite funny, and usually it's part of a bigger narrative, but it's something that's already been done. Since Borderlands 1 or 2, you had guns that could talk and it was funny. When you redo it again and again and again, eventually, the joke gets a bit old. So yeah. I'm curious to see how they've made this one unique in terms of the humor. As for the main three characters, yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, the first Tales for the Borderlands had, I guess, a bunch of losers as well. You had Reese, who ends up owning which weapon company is it? Atlas.
Is it Atlas?
It's Atlas. What's your favorite gun company in the Borderlands universe?
What's the one? Is it Wainwright? What's the one the Wainwright owns?
Jacobs.
Jacobs. Did like Jacobs just because I felt like a.
I do a lot of snipers, so.
Felt like a cowboy with some of the like revolver type weapons.
I'm a sniper and SMG person, so for me it's mostly Dal and Jacobs, probably for the snipers.
I did find with Borderlands 3 though that I ended up picking the weapons that were sort of more, I don't know, OP, the more meta weapons within the game. So it wasn't necessarily a gun company that I preferred to use. It was mainly just to get that high damage with Moze, or that would complement the build.
Yeah. Tales from the Borderlands, you had Reese, you had Vaughn, you had Sasha, and you had Fiona, which Sasha and Fiona we haven't seen in any of the other games yet. But yeah, bunch of losers caught in a funky situation. I did like them quite a bit, especially Vaughn and Reese, because they were losers but very endearing. So at the moment I haven't seen the endearing side, but it's very early. Obviously we need to discover them and their personalities. I have read, I don't know how true that is, but I have read that apparently Riss might actually be in that game.
Okay.
They might also be, is his name Zane? The one of the playable characters in Borderlands 3 might actually be in this game as well, so TBD.
I won't spoil the surprise then. But they have suggested there are returnable characters. Yeah. So
okay, you need to say now. You need to say. I want to know.
Well, I only know that Reese definitely does make a return. So whether moustache or not, I don't know. It would be good if that choice within Borderlands really kind of like transferred over. If he decided to save his moustache, then. Did
you ask to save the moustache or not?
Oh yeah, you've got to save the stash.
No, it really doesn't work for his face. It doesn't work for his face. It doesn't. It's a no from me.
Well, I'm someone who can't grow facial hair, so any facial hair with any prominence, it has to stay. There's like beard, stash, moustache, envy. That's a bit of a tongue stash, stash, a tongue twister. So I didn't grab all of the character synopsis, but obviously we've got the three main, which are Anu, Octavia, and Fran. I'm going to assume the antagonist within this is Susan, which, great name. which is the CEO of Tidio, the Weapons Corp. Which, again, the trailer didn't really give much away from the character, but I'm very intrigued to learn more about it. You've got to love an antagonist within the game, and I feel like Borderlands have always done the antagonist very well. I know you felt with Borderlands 3 the antagonist was slightly off or didn't quite match up to Borderlands 2.
I think so, yeah. I think Borderlands 3 had an interesting concept of villains who are themselves Vault Hunters who are sirens. That was very cool. That was a cool plot twist. But in terms of their personalities, I found them quite bland. They were not different from any next villain who wants to control the world. Okay, it was very, in my opinion, yeah, it's done, redone, already seen, as opposed to somebody like a Handsome Jack who had a lot more going on. He had many different sides. Some of them were actually nice to some degree. Some of them were very sad. So, spoilers for Borderlands 2, but Handsome Jack has a daughter called Angel, and he obviously from recordings you realize he did love his daughter, but she was a danger to others, to himself. He ends up becoming evil, and he ends up using her for his own, ends. And it's cruel, but it's interesting to see how he used to be and how he's been molded by everything that's going on. And so from what I understand, Angel killed her mother, something like that. So obviously you end up realizing, he dealt with the death of probably a woman he loved and all that. And it gave so much depth to the character. And obviously you had the pre-sequel, which meant you have even more depth because you end up understanding more about who he is. And then in Borderlands 3, you have these two ones who are, okay, they're interesting, but okay, they're just another couple of people who just want to control the world. Okay, it was missing a little bit of something.
For antagonists, they were a bit kind of hollow. So, I mean, Susan, I've only seen 5 seconds of her. Feels like she brings a lot more, I don't know, fear. I feel like you need a lot of fear in an antagonist for it to work. And strong characters, so it will be interesting to see how that's played. One character I did want to shout out, which I am very intrigued about, and because we love bots in here, because I'm Sch0eyJr, QuanaBot, and we all love a bot, is a sponsor bot. He's a part-time life coach, part-time spiritual guru, part legally mandated companion. So, sponsor bot helpfully reminds Fran to take breaths, calm her nerves, and avoid smashing skulls of those in near proximity.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I'm intrigued by Sponsor Bot.
Sponsor Bot as well. I like that. To be honest, that's one of the things in Borderlands games. I've always found the bots to be fantastic. It's a bit like I now can't quite remember the name of that bot in like Rogue One. But it's the same kind of vibe. They're robots with a personality that could almost be human. Claptrap in his own way. I absolutely love Claptrap, even though he's an absolute pain, but he has a personality about him. They've got humor, and yet they've got that sort of weird naivety in some way. And they do that quite well. And in the other games, most of the bots that they have mostly been quite funny. So
like the little gun.
Like the little gun. Yeah. Like the talking gun. So yeah, TBD. So in summary, if you had to give me a couple of words to say how you feel about this new release, what would you say? How do you feel?
So I hold reserve in interactive stories. They're not a choice of game that I tend to play. And that's part of the reason why I didn't play Tales from the Borderlands. I put my hands up. So like The Walking Dead and various games like that, I struggled to get into. But being a series and part of the universe of Borderlands 3, I am intrigued to play it and see how I will get on with it. And obviously SponsorBot, I'm very intrigued by their character as well. How about you? How do you feel? Being someone who has obviously experienced Borderlands 2 and then followed by Tales of the Borderlands as well.
A bit difficult to answer. I don't really know. I think I am curious is a word that comes to mind. I really want to see what happens. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm also a bit fearful I'm a bit careful. I think, having been such a huge fan of the Borderlands franchise, I felt myself a little disappointed with the past couple of releases, and I don't want to raise my hopes too high and be disappointed. Obviously, there's a lot of potential, and they could be doing something very good. There's a risk associated with the humor. There's a risk associated with them doing things that have already been done, or with the story being a little bit superficial. So I'm expecting it, and I will definitely be playing it when it comes out. Unlike you, I actually quite like that sort of game. I've enjoyed quite a lot games like The Walking Dead or the previous Tales from the Borderlands, things like the Quarry, Until Dawn. I actually quite like these types of games because I find them relatively low maintenance. They're quite relaxing, yet they have a degree of fear associated from time to time. So it's quite nice after a long day. So I'm expecting it, and I will definitely be playing it. I'm just a bit careful, and I have my reserves when it comes to the actual content. So only one way to find out, really.
Exactly. 21st of October. Thank you everyone for listening to our thoughts and opinions on the upcoming release of new Tales of the Borderlands. Let us know your thoughts and expectations of the games in the comment section. If you'd like to see more from the Blabees on upcoming releases, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.